Hi, in this lesson, I'm going to be talking to you about a piece of software called Alice, which is very similar to Scratch, but a bit more sophisticated, a bit more complicated, um, and something that's a very good progression between Scratch, programming in Scratch to programming in text-based languages like Python or Visual Basic. The software is free. You could just go to www.alice.org. This is the homepage. It's very similar. The way it's a drag and drop graphical user interface programming language, and is built around Java. To download it, we can just click on Get Alice. And we have two options. We have an option between Alice 3 and Alice 2. And Alice 3 is much more, is newer, but is generally for university level. Okay, for secondary schools, for middle schools, I would recommend sticking to Alice 2. It was developed to help encourage more students into computer science. Once you download it, you actually download it as a zip file, which means if you're installing on a school network, you can basically you don't install it. You don't get your network, your IT guys to install it for you. You just copy the zip file into your C drive onto that the computer's own hard drive, and then you unzip it, and that makes it accessible by all students. So it doesn't involve any administration rights, which is great. So you can just you can run with it without having to get approval. In this lesson, basically, I want to go through, once I've opened it, in this lesson, I want to go through the basic interface. I want to go through some of the properties, the methods, the functions, different objects, and a very simple programming. We're going to make an object, which will be Garfield, walk to his friend John, and we'll stop and say hello. Now, when you load it up, you get you can choose a background, and of course, I'm going to choose the desert. Press open, and when I load it up, it has different screens, very similar if you've used things like Scratch before. It's broken up. Up here, we have where your objects will be. Down here, we'll have methods, functions, properties related to each object. This is where this window here is where your program will run, where you can play it. Down here is where you can actually where you actually program, where you've got your programming, and this way you can have events. So, for example, if you want to click on different objects to make things happen. Now, to begin with, we're going to add some objects to the screen. So I'm going to click Add Objects, and they are all 3D. The disadvantage is that you can only use what the objects you're given. You can't import any objects in because they have to be specifically made for the 3D environment. So I'm going to scroll, and I'm going to find Garfield. So we have a folder, a Garfield folder called Garfield, and I'm going to open. I'm going to click on Garfield, add instance to the world. I'm going to add John, add instance to the world, and I'm going to move John over to one side, to the right, and Garfield to the left. And I think for background, I'm going to go back, click on a folder, I'm going to put a tree. And there's a reason for this, because when I put the tree in, it's too big. It's also not rooted either. The roots are out of the ground. So I need to first move this down. And up in the corner here, when I've selected it, I have move freely, so I can move it across. I can move up and down. So I want to move it down so it's in the ground. And keep moving this, turning it forward and backward, rotating forward and back. This is like tumbling. This is resizing. I want to make this smaller. So make this smaller, move it up, and move it closer. Oh, select the move closer, that one there. Okay, so I now got 3 objects. I have Garfield, I have a tree, I have John. I then click done. I can see these objects on the screen. Now, I want to move Garfield to John. And by clicking on Garfield, at the moment, he's not facing John. So if I tell him to go forward, okay, so I click on Garfield, I move to method, and I say Garfield move. And I can say which way would I like Garfield to move. I will say forward, half a meter, and I say play, and he moves forward. He moves just the way that he is facing. Okay? Well, John is to the left of Garfield. Okay, John is to the left of Garfield. So I need to make sure Garfield is facing John. So whichever, and so I need to turn Garfield to face John, which means that when he's moving forward, he's moving in the direction of John. So over here, I go to Garfield, drag it in, and I can see a line going across. That's where I want to put it, so I let go. Garfield turn to face. There's John, entire John, so I click Garfield turn to face John. Click play, and this time he turns and he faces, he turns to face John, and then he'll move forward to John. But I want him now to move all the way to John. Now, one way I could try and work out how far is John. I'm going to change this, the properties, move forward, click on the properties, 10 meters, and I want him to move 10 meters. Too far. Let's try and reduce this down. But this is a bit of trial and error. Okay, I need to try and work out how far Garfield is from John, and what happens, and I could get the right distance. But what happens if John moves further away, or Garfield is further away from John? It's not exact. It's not very. It's not very good. I need to have a better way of measuring, and that's where I can use sensing. I can use conditions. So down the bottom, we've got different control statements, of which one is a while loop. So I'm going to drag this while loop in, and I'm going to drag it underneath the turn to face. And I'm going to say while true. So while true. So it's basically, it will run forever. I need to add a condition in there. So while something is true, it will then move. And I don't want him to move 5 meters at a time. I want him to move less. And I can go to other and say 0.25. Press OK. So this time it'll play and it will do 0.25, 0.25 forever. Because I have not yet said when till. While true. What is true? While what is true? I haven't said yet. So I need to go to functions. And we've got 2 here. One is Garfield. While Garfield is within a certain distance of object, or when Garfield is at least. So when he's more than a distance away from John, he will move. So I drag this function, and as you can see, a green border goes around the true. So while Garfield is at least a certain distance away from object, and it will ask me how far, so I will say 1 meter away from John, it will move forward 0.25. Play. So he's now moving 0.25 meters each time. I will speed him up. And now when he's 1 meter away, he stops. So while, as long as this is true, the distance is greater than this, it will run this. Once this is false, the loop exits, the loop ends. Okay? Now the problem is that Garfield, all he's doing is he's sliding. And in reality, you basically, a real person will be walking. So we've got this one forward, this one back. So we go, one will go back, one will go forward. Then we go forward. They will keep, the legs will move forward and back each time. Okay? And we can do this by, in the objects, there is a plus symbol next to Garfield. Click, and I can break him down into torso and even more: heads, tails, right arm, left arm, right leg, and right lower leg. But I'm going to use just the right leg and the left leg. So, but I want when the left leg goes forward, the right leg goes back. So I need them to happen at the same time. And there is another control structure called do together. And I can drag this in, but move into here. And then I move to right leg and method. And I've got to look for the right method to make it move. Well, if I say move, his leg will move out. I want to actually turn his leg. So I can go right leg, turn, backwards, quarter revolution. This depends on the character. You might have to change it perhaps to other, maybe 0.15. Okay. Left leg, turn. I've got forward, backwards there, so I will have forward. So forward 0.5. And if I say play, what you'll find is his legs will just keep going in a big circle. I don't want that. I need now them to go, once they go forward, then to go back, and then go forward, then back. So I press the X, and instead of repeating that, I could drag this to the clipboard, and that copies it. And drag down from the clipboard, underneath that do together, I now have and go forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. But of course, we know that in walking, the legs will probably go back a bit more. So forward, back, back, forward, forward, back. So there, I need to say turn backwards, turn forwards. Next one, turn forward, turn backwards. Okay? Then I can repeat this. So cool. I copy that and I drag it down. And then I copy the top one. Okay, so I have this 4 times. And drag this down like so. And I hit play. And now you should hopefully see him walking all the way to John, and he stops. And of course, once he's at John, perhaps we can have Garfield turn this time. Garfield can turn to face the camera, which means he'll face towards us. Garfield turns to face the camera, and I will say, Garfield says, instead of saying hello, I'm going to say other. Hello, YouTube. And I'll play. I might have to have that on for longer. Too short. So let's change this. Hello, YouTube. Duration, instead of being, let's say, for 3 seconds. There we go. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and comment. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.